Have you ever wondered how transition diagrams can be applied in everyday life? Today we're going to delve into the intriguing world of these graphical representations and see how they are more than just a collection of circles and arrows. A transition diagram is essentially a visual representation of different states and the transitions between them. Think of it as a map, where each location signifies a different state, and the paths connecting these locations represent the transitions. This diagram is a fundamental tool in mathematics, particularly in the study of discrete dynamical situations. Let's consider a simple example to clarify this concept: the classic coin toss scenario. Here, we have two possible outcomes or states, heads and tails. We represent each state with a circle or node on our diagram. Now, from each state, you can transition to either itself or the other state with each new coin toss. We represent these transitions as arrows moving between the nodes. So if we start with a heads outcome, we can either flip to tails on the next toss or stay on heads. Similarly, if we have a tails outcome, we can either flip to heads or stay on tails. The arrows from each node back to itself and to the other node represent these possibilities. One of the beauties of transition diagrams is their universality. While we've used a simple coin toss for our example, you can apply this concept to a wide range of situations, from predicting weather patterns to modeling insect populations, or even analyzing the flow of traffic. It is important to note that transition diagrams are not just about the states and the transitions. They also involve the probabilities of these transitions, which are represented by the weights on the arrows. These probabilities add another layer of depth to our understanding of the system we're studying. That's the basic concept of transition diagrams, a handy tool to represent different states and transitions graphically. Now that we've laid the foundation, in the next segment, we'll explore the fascinating world of transition matrices and their applications, so stay tuned and let's continue to unravel the magic of mathematics together. Now that we've got a handle on transition diagrams, let's delve into transition matrices. A transition matrix, in essence, is a square matrix used to describe the transitions in a finite Markov chain. It's derived from a transition diagram, where each state corresponds to a row and column, and the entries in the matrix represent the probability of transitioning from one state to another. Let's take a simple example of a weather model to illustrate this. Imagine we've got three types of weather: sunny, rainy, and cloudy. We create a transition diagram with these as our states, and arrows to represent the probability of transitioning from one state to another. From this diagram, we derive our transition matrix. For instance, the entry in the first row and second column represents the probability of the weather transitioning from sunny to rainy. Now you might be wondering, why do we need this matrix? Well, transition matrices are incredibly powerful tools for predicting future states. By multiplying our initial state matrix by the transition matrix, we can predict the state after one transition. And if we want to look further into the future, we just raise the transition matrix to the power of the number of transitions we're interested in, and multiply this by the initial state matrix. Let's return to our weather model. Suppose we know that today is sunny, and we want to predict the weather 2 days from now. Our initial state matrix would be a row matrix with a 1 for sunny and zeros for rainy and cloudy. We then multiply this by our transition matrix squared to get the probabilities of each weather type 2 days from now. This predictive power isn't just limited to weather, though. Transition matrices have a myriad of practical applications, from modeling insect populations, as we'll explore later, to predicting consumer behavior, analyzing traffic flow, and much more. Transition matrices, derived from transition diagrams, allow us to make predictions about future states, opening up a world of practical applications. We've seen transition diagrams and matrices, but what about state matrices? How do they fit into the picture? Well, let's dig in and find out. State matrices, as the name suggests, are mathematical representations that describe the current state of a system. Think of them as a snapshot in time, capturing the current condition of all elements within the system. If our system is an insect population, a state matrix could represent the number of eggs, juveniles, and adults at a given moment. Now, Let's imagine a simple insect population model with 3 stages: eggs, juveniles, and adults. Our state matrix at time t might indicate that we have 50 eggs, 30 juveniles, and 20 adults. This matrix gives us a clear picture of our insect population at that specific point in time. But how do we predict what our population will look like in the future? This is where state matrices work hand in hand with transition matrices and transition diagrams. The transition matrix provides the probabilities of moving from one state to another, while the transition diagram visualizes these transitions. To predict the future state of our insect population, we multiply our current state matrix by the transition matrix. The result is a new state matrix that describes the expected state of the system at the next time period, say t+1. By continually performing this operation, we can simulate the evolution of our system over time. So, in the context of our insect population, we can use our state matrix, transition matrix, and transition diagram to predict how many eggs will hatch into juveniles, how many juveniles will mature into adults, and so on. This allows us to forecast population changes and make informed decisions about managing the population. In essence, state matrices are the final piece of the puzzle, tying together our understanding of discrete dynamical systems. They bridge the gap between our current knowledge and future predictions, providing a powerful tool for modeling and analysis. State matrices complete our toolkit, enabling us to describe the current state of a system and predict its future evolution. To wrap things up, let's summarize the key points we've covered. Transition diagrams are graphical representations of the changes between states in a discrete dynamical system. They help us visualize the states and the transitions between them. Transition matrices, on the other hand, are mathematical representations of the same transitions. Each entry in a transition matrix gives the probability of moving from one state to another. They give us the ability to calculate future states based on current states. State matrices are the final piece of our puzzle. They represent the number of elements in each state at a given time. By multiplying a state matrix by a transition matrix, we can predict the state of the system at the next step in time. These 3 concepts aren't just theoretical, they have practical applications. For example, they can be used to model and analyze an insect population, helping us understand and